Hi everybody, welcome back to part 2 of my 3-part series on hair. Today we're going to work on lighting and highlights in the hair and how to highlight the picture in general around, because that's going to affect where you're going to put your highlights in your hair. Back when I was in art school, this was my absolute favorite lesson and the most interesting to me because I was able to take my pictures and create something really different. When working with coloring books, this is a lot of fun. So let's get started. But before we did, I would suggest you go back and look at part 1. Part 1 was how to do the tapered stroke. I will be using this tapered stroke to show you different techniques with the hair. If you haven't done that, you could still watch this and go back and then really understand what I'm talking about with the tapered stroke. So let's get started.
Number 1. Front and side lighting.
In this picture, the model is showing a perfect example of front lighting. I'm going to pick up one of the pens and I'll show you. Okay. On front view lighting, the face is equally lit up, and you can see she's got some shading that's hitting from underneath the hair. Of course, she has underneath the chin going down the neck. But I want you to take a look at the hairline in the back. It's darker, and this is because it's fading out behind her head. So if you darken it while you're doing your highlights, you'll get a rounder looking picture because the head is round. So of course on the highlights here you have a darker scalp. Now the front of the hair is lighter, and be prepared to leave enough space because you're going to do a shadow underneath. This just gives the hair a little bit of lift, and you can see the shadow is over here also. This is wavy hair, so we've got highlights going out over here, highlights over here, here. This is going to be better explained when I do the texture video next. And of course on the face you're going to have your lightest highlights. Now I don't know if you can properly see it, but there's actually going this way sort of like a bell of light, and as your darker colors would go that way. She's got a highlight going over here on the tip of her nose, her lips, and right on her eyes, while the apple of her cheek. And that's how I would map out her highlights. This program I'm using is 2D Paint. I love this program. It's actually 3D Paint. So that's front light. If you forget your lighting source, you can always add a piece of painter's tape on the corner or artist tape, and that would give you a reminder of where your lighting source is. This, you could tell that this lighting was coming in through there, even though they have probably set up lights going over here and it's overhead lighting. So this is a pretty natural, with the light being dispersed in all directions, this is a pretty natural looking outdoor type of lighting system that they put up.
Number 2, backlighting.
This is an excellent picture of backlighting. Now, of course, you're going to be working in a coloring book and you're going to be coloring all of this, but this is where you're going to put your highlights in. Remember when I told you before that with front lighting, you would pick a side over here or over here, or over here or over here with light is coming in. Over here you have a lighting source coming off the front of the face over here. All here is in shadow, but what they did is they backlit it, so what the sun it must be doing is setting, and that's gonna light up the whole back of her hair. So instead of doing the edges in a darker color to show that the head is going around, you're gonna do a light layer of golden yellow going around the head. Let's see if I can find the pen. Okay, let's see. I would be going in over here. Highlighting around the hair. Then when I go do the face, you would have your highlights here, your blondes. Of course you have your wavy hair blonde, so, well actually this, take that away. Okay. Here, you have your extensions. And sometimes if you take your picture, I love this program, this is 3D Paint. I can actually make a copy of the picture and I can mark in my highlights if I really want to get detailed. And then we have a little bit of highlights here. And this way we don't overextend. On this picture, now that you know where you're going to put in your highlights on your hair, you have to turn to say, well, this highlights on the face. Let me change it to, we'll put red. Right there, you have a high highlight. Right here. Right there. A little bit under the eyes. And definitely the chin. That's why it's nice to use one of these programs to map things out. Those are going to be your high points, your whitest points. And there we have on the tip of her nose. And of course on the sides to show extension out. And a little bit on the lips. As you see on her chest, all of this is in darkness. Right down here I would highlight. And if you follow the pattern that you created while you're coloring, this picture will come out very interesting looking. And then you can get into different things with the sun. Of course, you would have the sun coming in, so your lighter colors would be over here, nice and high up on the paper, so that it looks like it's in the distance. And down here, I'll just pick another color. Down here, you would have your darker. And this picture would be very highlighted.
Number 3, underlighting.
This is an example of underlighting, and it's, in my opinion, the most fun. You can actually underlight any picture that you have in any coloring book, and you will get a much more interesting looking picture. Underlighting is done a lot in Halloween pictures when you want to add drama to a picture, but this looks like just an artistic picture that the photographer took, but it's really interesting in the lighting, and I wanted to point out some things to you. Now, the difference when you're doing underlighting is normally the backgrounds are dark. Okay, this adds drama. The backs of the head are always dark, even when you're doing blonde hair. And you may have a couple of highlights in the front over here just to show where the glow is coming off the face. The magic comes when you're projecting the light onto the face. So here we have, I guess, some fairy lights being held up in front of her. They've backlit it slightly over here, you could tell. And that's optional, of course. It does add a little bit more drama to it. But look at where the highlights are on the face. You have way more highlights down in the chin area, and it gets really bright going up the face. But you have all in here as dark. And of course, under the chin, the shoulders, everything would be darker. And then you have a little bit of a highlight going, and it's, instead of bell curve on the forehead, it's much more narrow, so that your concentration of light is going straight up the nose. And you can have a lot of fun with this. And I can see she's got a little bit of highlights on her eyelids. You can have a lot of fun with this. Now, in the video that I made, which, let's see, the video that I made 2 videos ago, I believe it was 2 videos ago, the things I do to prepare to color. You don't need a program like this. All you need is a copying machine, and make a copy of the picture, and then you can block out where you want to do your highlights with a pencil. Now, when I do my pictures, when you're watching me actually color, this is what you don't see, and it's why I can block in my darks and my lights. I go really quickly blocking in, almost as if I know exactly by instinct where to put it. I always, number one, always have a picture, whether I've created that picture or sometimes I look on Google for, say I'm doing a portrait from a coloring book, and this is the picture, the portrait that the coloring book artist drew. I would look for a picture with her in the same position. And that way I'm able to actually see on that picture where the highlights on the natural face is, so that I can transpose them into my coloring. And it makes it much more interesting and much nicer, and a lot of fun to do. If you have any questions, please write them in the comment section. I will get back to any and all questions. Creating the glow. Before I forget to tell you how I create this type of glow, I found that doing an undercoating of wax and doing the picture in wax, then when I want to get the really highlighting, like the yellowish glow, I use an oil paint. Not an oil paint, an oil pencil. And so it's good if you don't have a full oil set, pick up a stock yellow, because the wax and the oil don't completely mix, and with oil pencils they sort of layer color on top of each other, and they don't really blend per se the colors together as well as wax does, especially Prismacolors. This way you get a yellowish overtone. So here's where you have your beiges on her arms, I would have a little bit of a yellow glow so that you can actually see. It'll be translucent and you can see through and you'll see the color. If I was going to use a wax pencil to do this, it's very difficult and I'm running the risk of actually blending the beige with the yellow and it doesn't come out as good. So that's my little tip for underlighting.
The next color palettes will be given out in the next video. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that like and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell.